Hi there. In today's episode, I have a rather unique locker repair. It's not something I've ever done before, and it's something that I'm going to have to wait for a very particular window of time in order to be able to do it. Because nobody wants to be around when I run a generator in the school.
Buckle up your tape as I give you a day in the life of facilities maintenance.
So what I'm working on here is I need to duplicate this hasp mechanism. It's a piece that goes in a locker that I'm able to put my lock on. I have a few lockers in the middle school that are in need of repair. This is what I'm trying to duplicate right here. And the problem is, these new lockers, they're not welded on very well. I want to make a new piece and attach it at 4 points. I'm going to wrap it around the corner, which the factory pieces don't do. They just end right here. I don't have one to show you because when they break, whoever picks them up just tends to throw them away. They don't save them and go, "Hey, Arne, can you fix this?" It'd be easier if I had the piece. For a couple of reasons. One, I wouldn't have to redesign it, which would save me some time, obviously. And I could just modify the original piece. I've kind of got this two-dimensional drawing here, which is what I've got going on here. But I have a feeling that this won't work, which is why I bought a 3-foot piece of this. I think I have to add probably an 1/8 at every bend point, because when I bend it, this cold steel like this, I'm going to lose a bit of distance. So I think, or maybe if, see, this is where it's a trial and error process. I'll start with this and see how I can bend it. I'll put some heat to it to make the bend a little easier. If I do that, I actually might not lose so much. It's bending this 45 across here that's going to be the more challenging bend in all of this. It's always the first one you make that's turns out to be the most challenging. But after I've done the first one, I should be able to duplicate it easier. I need to make about 4 of them right off the top. And so that is what I'm working on. And I think I'm going to start with the most difficult bend, and I'm thinking that most difficult one is going to be this 45-degree bend across here. So I've actually scored it with a hacksaw, because I think once I heat this up, hopefully to glowing red, I will no longer be able to see my line that I drew on with a Sharpie. So that's why I've scored this a little bit with the hacksaw. So then I'm going to take my torch, I'm going to heat it up hot, and then I'm going to put it in the vise and see if I can bend it exactly where I need it to bend. And I think maybe I'll remove any furry objects from the area. Any flammable objects from the area. Safety second, right? I wish I had an original piece to compare it to, but I think that bend turned out okay. I won't know until I know. If you're wondering why I don't just go out and buy the part, well, they don't sell them. Just remember, what you're looking at here is a prototype. Okay, if I compare this with an existing one, I think I'm on the right track. I think I'm on the right track. I think it's going to work. I'm now creating a score line for my next bend. And yeah, good thing I did this too, because there's no way, like you can see, all the Sharpie lines have disappeared. They just burned away. I was actually concerned about this tab here that will eventually have a hole drilled through it for the lock, that it was too short, but I think it'll work. Well, I definitely didn't get as tight a bend on this one. It's almost a curve as opposed to a tight bend. So we'll see. I might have to reheat and work it a bit more to tighten up that corner. But heating does help because it allows the backside, which has to cover more distance, to stretch a little bit. With the method that I've got going on here, it's hard to keep it hot and have that heat hold where it needs to while I have to clamp it into the vise, which is immediately going to start sucking heat out of it. Yeah, like the vise is actually warm because it sucked the heat out of the metal already. I'm actually going to try heating this up right here. I don't know if it'll take the heat. I don't know if it'll get hot enough because I have clamped in a big chunk of steel that's going to absorb heat as I put it in. So it might not get hot enough, but it might. We'll find out. I'm going to call that successful. When that cools down, I will take that out and I will re-square this up so it's back to 90 again. But yeah, that tightened up that corner beautifully. I know, cooling steel and dishwater. And this is why we make prototypes, because with that bend in there, I've lost a whole bunch of distance. So this section here, which measures 1 inch, I have to make that probably about 1 3/8 inches. But the angles are good, which is what I consider the most challenging part of it all. So back to the drawing board. Okay, I realized that the mistake was my own. What I did, this line that I had across here, I've erased it now, but that's where I bent this, and that's not where my bend line was supposed to be. That's the edge of the locker. Okay, here is my new piece, and you can see that I have added 3/8 of an inch here to where I will eventually be making this bend compared to the first one. Yeah, you see the old one pretty much fits inside the new one. I may still take some tweaking, but at least I know that this piece here should be long enough. In fact, it's exactly what I measured it to be. 1 3/8 on the short side and 1 7/8 on the long side. So if it does not fit, what's wrong are my measurements. Making one of a thing is one thing. Like, it actually is one thing. However, duplicating that one thing is another thing altogether. I'm hoping that by building them all at the same time that I can make them all the same, or close enough to the same so that they all work consistently. And I've come up with a way of scoring these so that I'm accurate, and that is to take this little insert piece that can fit in my vise, put this in the vise so it sits a little bit proud, and I can hold this into position, and the rubber grips on the bottom of it actually help position it and hold it where I want it to stay. And I use this as a blade guide, so my blade doesn't wander all over the place when I'm making a cut. And it doesn't take much. There. I've got that scored line across there, and that will show up even after I've heated the material up. So those are my bend lines right there. Now it's a little bit brutal to heat it up, clamp it in the vise, and bash it with the hammer to put your bend in it. But if I heat it up and I get it hot enough, I can actually make a nice square bend. And the distance from my scored line, which is on the inside of this corner, is accurate to where the next score line needs to be. You can see it right there. Oh, that was hot. Nothing that's hand forged is ever identical from one piece to the next, but I do find that if I am making multiple pieces, that if I production line them like this, never mind this one, this was my prototype, right? But if I production line them, I can be more consistent. And the opportunity I've been waiting for. It's school break. There's no kids in the building other than a few playing in the gym here and there. I've got my lockers that need repair. I've got my welder. I've got a few different lengths of extension cord to get me out the door here, which will take me to my generator. And if I would have only had just a few more feet, I could have got this generator outside. But no such luck. So without an actual jig, it was a little challenging to bend all these pieces so that they were matching. And they need to be as close to matching as possible in order to fit and align with the locker door itself. In order to orient them to where I need to mount them, I've measured up from the base of the locker here up to the bottom of the hasp, I guess we'll call it. And in all the lockers that I have to install them in, I have drilled a couple of holes because I think that's actually going to be the most effective way to weld this. I'll clamp it in position from behind, throw a quick little tack weld in there, test fit to make sure the door closes, and if it does, then I will fill in the holes, essentially welding it in place permanently. I've taken the paint off the front, but I think I'm also going to have to change up my my grinding wheel and get in behind here, because you can see the old welds. This is just going to get in the way of my new installation. So I need to try and take this down flush as well. Well, I have 4 pieces here that I fabricated, and I have one original piece that somebody actually picked up when it was broken off the locker. All the other ones just got thrown away, unfortunately. So I need to pick the 3. I'm going to use this one, obviously. The other 3 need to be the closest match to this one, and I think that's our odd person out. Like these 4 are probably the closest match to each other. So I'm gonna go with those. Trying to clamp this into position is a little tricky, but I think that's good because that gives me a really nice shot at that face right there where that hole is, to throw down my first tack weld. Before I can do anything else, I need to head out there and fire up that generator, which is going to stink up the area on the other side of those doors. I propped open the doors for some air circulation in here, but I wouldn't recommend hanging out in this area for a while. Hopefully that's enough amperage to run the welder. Oh, we're going very thin here. This is a problem when you're not using your own tools. The kids have access to these tools, and they leave them in a condition not suitable for the next person that wants to pick them up and start using them. The tip came out of the end of the gun. Well, it worked, although that weld is a little fat. What I mean by that is it's not quite as hot as I want it to be, so it's not flowing like I'd like it to be. So I've turned up the amperage. Hopefully I don't turn it up so high that the generator can't supply the power that it needs. If that happens, I may have to eliminate a bunch of that extension cord and just pull the generator right in here where I'm working and just work with it in here. Well, you know what? It's ugly, but it works. This is strong. That won't break again. I was able to weld it where it wraps around the corner through that one hole. I was able to weld it through this hole here, and even a couple of face welds, and it is strong. The door closes just fine. So we are good. Yeah, a little bit of cleanup, a little bit of touch-up paint, and I think we're in business. And if you look down here at the little burn marks, had I not put the welding blanket down here, those would be burn holes in the floor. This next one's a little different, actually. The welds, these tack welds are not holding, so I will make new welds through the other holes to sort that out. And I always have to grind a little bit of paint off, so I have a good metal to grounding strap contact. Well, I'm really happy with the way the last one looks, which is better than the first one. And bear in mind that I have to clean them up and touch-up paint them as well. That's it. They're done. It worked. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.